everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. We are coming to you live from Facebook and YouTube, and not on X because they're dumb and now they want you to pay for it. You can find us at hollywoodmatrimony.com, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, and Hi.
X gonna give it to you.
Gonna give it to you. Are you tired still? All right, so we just returned from a week at Disney World in Florida. It was a busy week, had a great time. We will talk about it in a little bit. Right now, let's talk about some movies.
That's why we didn't do a show last week.
We should probably do a show about the Disney World. I know we've done one before.
We do another one.
But we've learned some new things.
We can talk about the new Lightning Lane and stuff, so we do the new show.
Yes.
We can finish the show. We can start another one.
Let's just do it immediately.
Yeah, we didn't end up doing a show last week for you three people that usually pay attention. Because this time around, the whole family went. Both my kids, their spouses, the grandkid, all went. They all spent the night here.
It was a lot.
And as much as I had a blast with all of them, it was a wonderful time. It was the first time in God knows how long I've had that much time with my kids.
That's true.
They're all adults now, so you don't get to spend that much time. I realized, like, man, I don't like all these people in my house.
I know. We're all like, we'll see you at Thanksgiving. Everyone was like,
they were only there for one night, and they were all fine. They didn't do anything. I just realized, like, I like my silence and my quiet and my routines. And anyway, we had a good time. We'll talk about that later.
All right.
So anyway, that's why we didn't do a show last week.
I'm going to hold my chrysanthemum here.
We had to leave at like 4 a.m. because
correct.
Booked a super early flight.
I want to make sure we get there.
But it's always beneficial because then you have the whole day to do stuff. So
true.
Anyway, what we got?
All right.
Stick around and we'll do a show about our Disney trip.
We got to talk about movies. Are we okay to talk about this? It came out a while ago, and we never got to see it.
All right.
I want to go here. I forgot how to do the show. It's been so long.
It's been a while.
This is the new movie. Oh, not new movie, but it's the movie The Watchers by Ishana Night Shyamalan, Mr. M. Night Shyamalan's daughter.
His other daughter, as we talked about, his other daughter in Trap, who is the singer. She's an aspired pop star, and he did a movie about her. That's actually not about her, but this is his other daughter that's actually directed this movie.
Correct.
Did she write it as well, or I think she did write it.
I think she wrote it and directed it, and he produced it, which is great.
What is this movie about?
So basically, this lovely lady, it's all goes in based on the novel by A.M. Shine. Anyways, so sorry, I got lost. So this girl is on her way to deliver a bird to a zoo. Random, doesn't matter. She has to go through a forest to get there. And suddenly her car dies in the middle of the forest, which is like my worst nightmare. Horror story. There's no signal.
Of your car dying in the forest?
Yes.
You're never in the forest.
Exactly. Because I'm a smarty pants. I'm not going to the forest. That's where people kill you. So anyways, in the forest, there's no signal. There's nowhere to go. She's walking around with this bird. And suddenly it begins to get darker and darker.
Is that how you described a Disney movie? She's walking around with this bird.
Walking around with a bird.
Yeah, this bird doesn't talk.
And she notices it's getting darker and darker, and she gets lost. And it feels like she's kind of roaming in circles. She can never get back to her car. She goes back to the road where her car is, and her car's gone. It's disappeared. Like the road's not there. She sees somebody, and they're like, "Run if you want to live," basically. And she ends up in this house.
It's like a square box.
A box.
Type.
And one side of it is a thick glass window.
Two-way mirror.
So, yeah, they can't see out, but the watchers can see in.
Yeah, it's like a reverse of what you would normally get of like a interrogation room.
Yeah, so like it's interesting. And they tell her, just stand here. They want to watch. And it is kind of creepy because you hear the creatures outside kind of like applauding, because there's someone new to watch, and they're like, just stand there and don't move. And there are rules. Don't go out at night. Always lock the door. Never turn your back to the mirror. Just very strange. It's very strange, right? Which I liked. Yeah,
I like the nuance and mysteries of it, because it very much felt like, wait a minute, where did that come from? What's going on? None of this makes any sense. And that gives you that feel of unnervingness, of you don't know what to expect. and why is this happening? Who built this shelter? All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All of that I really loved. Even the mysterious creature things that are watching them, the looks of them, the visual approach, what they do as a less is more approach on everything, I thought worked really well. My biggest issue with this movie ends up being because it sets itself up to need an explanation. Because I love movies that have no explanation, leave it to your own mind. But this one needs some sort of an explanation to at least make you understand why this building is there. Because there's no reason. If it was a cave or something, you could get around that. But why is this building? It's clearly been made, so something's got to explain that. I felt the reveal and the explanation kind of underwhelming. Like there was this great build-up, great intensity, great interest. You know, people turning on each other, people clearly in danger of something, people discovering things. And then when I finally realized what the discovery was, there's two kind of discoveries. I
wish they had left it like at one and then just let it be.
There's one discovery of the existence of the building, then there's the other discovery of what's watching you, which is obviously the two things you need to know. I wasn't overly excited about either one of the reveals.
I was okay with the reveal, but there's another level of the story still. I feel like if we had left it there and she would have been like, oh my gosh, this is now out there, and we had stopped right there, that would have been enough for me. Like, just stop. We don't need explanation. Like, just leave it alone.
That wasn't even what I was talking about.
You're like what they are.
I'm talking about, the other stuff that happened after that kind of felt to me, what happened is it fell into the Hollywood generic, where it said, okay, here's a very interesting idea, let's build something up. And even what it was could have still had been an interesting twist and take. And the format felt very much like M. Night's movies with a different voice. It was very not his.
Yeah.
But you could tell it was inspired by his type of filmmaking and his knowledge, obviously, because they probably grew up around it. But I just felt like all the little things, there's multiple levels. There's the two big reveals. There's a reveal at the end. There's another kind of reveal you see it coming from probably a mile away. But none of them I felt really added to the story. I felt like they all, if anything, they dumbed it down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They took something that was very intriguing and interesting and with a lot of promise, and then kind of dumbed it down to something that was more Hollywood, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think, to be fair, we don't know how the book ended.
I agree.
Gave that much of a, I don't know. I will say I like Dakota Fanning.
I like the movie.
She's amazing, and I think the other lady that's in it, what's the older lady's name?
I do not know. I did enjoy the movie. I didn't hate it or anything. It just, I think that's why it bothered me so much, because I was really engaged in what they were giving me.
Is it that the Shyamalans always do this, where they give you like a little too much? Like, they could have stopped somewhere.
It's hit and miss, because
recently it's been that way in the past few movies.
Well, it's been hit and miss, in my opinion, because M. Night's always build, major twist.
But then I feel like it's too much.
Whereas in Trap, there wasn't a major twist. It was a one reveal.
There was one,
but it wasn't a twist.
No.
And I like that.
I like that.
I think that was, somebody else mentioned that to me. A friend of mine was like, maybe the twist was there was no twist. And now although people are expecting it, and you're waiting for it, and it doesn't happen, you're like, oh, this is it. But I still enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed this movie too. Like I said, I just felt like it went from interesting and engaging and creative and unique to just a path that felt like I'd seen it before.
Yes, this lady, Olwen Fourier. I know her from something else. What do we know her from?
I don't know. I know her from Andy, I guess. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Maybe.
She's the lady that shows up at the end of, go back. She's the lady at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one that was on Netflix. She shows up as the lady that was supposedly a survivor from the original. With the shotguns and stuff.
Yes. Okay, that's why.
She plays the new version of her.
That's why I know. Okay, anyways.
Again, it's a decent movie.
I was okay with the reveal. I was okay with the ending. I feel like the ending again went a little too far. Yeah, it could have stopped. I feel like it tried to stop, like it ended the movie 3 times. So I think by the second ending, we could have stopped there and just left it kind of fluttering, because I think that's creepier, to know that maybe something's out there still watching you and you never really know.
Yeah.
That I like. That's creepy to me. So I think it was a fine movie. I think everybody in the movie did great, because I could also see this being a play. It's one of those where it's like 4 people,
and
it really it depends on these 4 people. So I enjoyed that.
I got that. Yeah, I enjoyed all the interactions with the people.
Coming from a theater background, like I see like 4 people in a confined space. Like they have to potty in a bucket, and there's people watching you sleep.
Prison is what it is.
Yeah, it is. So is that where we're going with this movie? Is it the idea that at some point in time we've turned our lives from having a private life to putting everything on display, which I feel like that has completely happened. Back in the day, nobody knew anything about you. Now everything's like out there.
The same thing. Nobody knew anything about celebrities too. We've talked about this before. It's like we didn't know what Denzel Washington was up to until the new trailer came out. And you're like, oh, I haven't seen him in forever.
Or if you're later, like, oh, Denzel.
Yeah, I feel like the mystery on some of that elements of Hollywood and music and sports and everything is gone, because used to we didn't hear about our favorite musicians or whatever, unless there was something legal in the news, until the next project came out.
Yeah.
And it mattered more. Now it's like, I can tell you how many times I've seen Kevin Hart like every single day, because he's always doing something.
Posting.
But before I might only see when his new stand-up came out.
I'm going to put a spoiler alert up. Turn off the sound real quick. I think the other thing too with these watchers, the idea of like a mimic, that everything on celebrities especially is on display, and people want to be like them. Like, I want to have the purse J-Lo has. I want to have the whatever. I want to do their hair. Like, that idea of trying to become someone you're not, because that's what you see being portrayed and displayed that's in popular culture, I think has really hurt us as a society. And we've talked about that in that other movie with the where they tested the algorithms, the Netflix movie, and how depression has increased among teens and girls and suicide rates and all these things. And I feel like we're probably getting really deep on the watchers, and that may not even be what the author of the book or Shyamalan was even going for. But I feel like that's where we're at. Like, it's so on display in your entire life, and even your private times. Everybody wants to share everything, and it's like, whoa, when do we get back to having a personal life? Okay.
That's what it is.
I'll take off the spoiler alert.
Now they don't know when to come back because they can't hear you.
Come back.
The whole time you're talking, I was like, what is this shirt you're wearing? And then I realized
I'm wearing my new Guardians of the Galaxy Epcot shirt, because that was my favorite ride in the entire world.
All right.
Followed closely by Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Train.
it's another one of those movies you don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah,
even the little bit you mentioned in the spoiler area isn't really a spoiler.
Yeah, I hope not.
But it's a movie to just kind of experience and witness and watch. Earth. And it's not to be confused with The Watcher starring Keanu Reeves.
What?
It's a different movie.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
You know the Keanu movie The Watcher, where he's a serial killer.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen that.
Seen it, you jerkhead.
Okay.
We saw it together, and he did not want to do that movie.
Really? Why did he?
Well, he did it.
Did he need money?
No, he did it as an agreement. I think his agent signed the contract without his knowledge. There's a whole story about it.
Oh, goodness.
I like that movie. Anyway. Anyway, The Watchers is available now on Blu-ray, DVD, digital, 4K. It's on HBO Max now, I believe, as well. So give it a watch.
And
I
believe we also
have copies
a contest.
So you can hear about that later on. You can on our website at
HollywoodMatrimony.com.
What else we got, sister?
Hold on, we gotta do a
link. Wait for this turd, whatever she's doing.
I'm doing a link. I'm posting links to the site. Let's talk about this.
All right. The next one was a movie that I knew of, and here's the funny thing about it. The title originally swayed me from not being interested.
Oh.
Because we're going to be talking about the Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat. At first, I thought it was like a documentary about the Supremes, which I didn't look at the poster. I didn't look at the trailer. that's something I'd be interested in watching at some point, but it wasn't one I was doing news stories and chasing screening links and all this stuff for like I do sometimes. So I'd kind of bypassed on it. Then I realized, wait, this is something else. And I watched the trailer. There's one scene that we'll talk about in the trailer that said, I'm sold. And I knew from that one scene that she would want to see this movie.
Yes.
So we dived into it. It is actually a Hulu movie.
Yeah.
It's a Searchlight Pictures. It's exclusively, I don't know if exclusive, but it streamed initially on Hulu. And let me tell you, this movie is actually fantastic.
It is a wonderful, wonderful movie. It's basically a story of these three ladies who become best friends, lifelong best friends. And it really takes us through the ups and downs of their lives. So many heartbreaking moments, but also some triumphs and victories, and really just finally to a point where I think they're all finally happy at some point. But Lord have mercy, it takes a lot to get there.
And they get their name from the guy Earl, who owns this diner.
Earl's All You Can Eat.
All You Can Eat diner, and they hang out there a lot. It's like Mel's.
They even have their own table.
Yeah, it's like Mel's Diner, but it's Earl's.
Yeah.
He calls them, you're looking like the Supremes, and so then it just kind of sticks. But because of the time period it deals with, at the beginning of it, at their teenage years, and then leading into the current, it sets itself up to deal with racism, relationship stuff, marriage things, sicknesses, abuse, dreams, careers, all kinds of like ups and downs of life, in a very interesting backdrop of three women that are completely different, yet are still connected by a bond of something that happens at the beginning of the movie that brings all three together. And the sequence, I'll tell you in the trailer that it's just funny. And I want to ask you what you thought of it when you first saw the scene. So I saw the thing. I told her, kind of described about it. So the scene is there's a guy who's abusive to someone else. And one of the characters who's very feisty, if you will, this one, they're teenagers. She stands up to like she's going to whoop his ass. And he starts talking about taking his belt off. So she starts taking her earrings off like you see sometimes. But then she takes her whole dress off. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm not getting blood on my dress. And so she's like, come on. And it's a very serious scene when you see it, but it comes off kind of funny because of the scenario, the way it's shot. And I think that is my wife right there, is watching that sequence. So what were your feelings when you saw that scene on the trailer?
I was in, like you told me, watch this trailer. I was like, oh, I am in. I love this lady because she was willing to fight for a girl she didn't even know. But she could tell that there was something not right because that stepdad was all like, ooh, and I'm going, ooh,
not today.
Gross. So anyway,
so what did you think of this movie?
I really liked this movie. It was there were some ups and downs. I was laughing, I was crying. Oh my gosh. And then there was the one part where there's like the one white guy, but it's like, no, you can't be with the white guy because then people are gonna. This was like in the time of like that Loving movie, before when it was probably illegal. I don't even know. Ooh,
what I found really interesting.
This was stressful.
I don't normally like movies that jump back and forth in time. This one does a really good job of spending enough time in the storyline of this era before jumping ahead that still connects to the same part of the story instead of never letting you kind of marinate in what was trying to happen. They're showing that so it can explain what's happening now and vice versa. And there's a lot of moments too where characters that you think are these characters when they're younger aren't. And then the story kind of changes, and you're like, "Oh, that's that person, not this person," And I found it really, really well crafted and put together. But it also is, even though it is a heavy movie at times, it's very funny.
It is funny. And then you have the who's the guy down there? Is that
which one?
The one on the very corner.
That's the guy from Grimm, right?
Yeah.
Vonda Curtis Hall. No, that's not Vonda Curtis Hall. That's
Russell Hornsby.
Russell Hornsby.
That's Russell Hornsby.
Yeah. So, Vonda Curtis Hall.
Yeah, that's right. So and he is such a cutie, by the way.
Who? Vonda Curtis Hall.
Look it's a cute older man.
He's like an older man with a lot of wrinkles on it because he looks like a black Gordon Ramsay.
Okay, he's just so cute. But anyway, Russell Hornsby, I expect him to be like the good guy, the cop that's going to save everyone. And
I've seen a lot of movies where he's kind of
he doesn't.
And then, you're used to him from like a couple of shows you watch.
I'm used to him for being a good guy. And then Mekhi Phifer is just like, oh, what a sweetie. You know, it's interesting because it shows the ideas. Like sometimes you go for like the flashy person that's like, hey, I got all the money, I got all this, I got all that. But then that's not who they grow into being. And
we know that. That's the typical high school. You go with a football player who's pretty and whatever, and they end up being the ones that are probably the losers. Not all the time, obviously.
Yeah, but you know, and it changes. And it's interesting how life changes you. And like Bondi Curtis all ends up being such a good guy. He was flashy, but he ends up being a really nice, decent man. I mean, there's just so many things. And then the ladies have their dreams, but then they have a family. And it's like, do you let the family overdo your dreams? And do you do this? And do you do that? And then also the time period of the 60s. Like there wasn't as much opportunity for women and or black women.
I want to say I'm a huge fan of Uzo Aduba.
Yeah.
Because she was kind of burst onto the scene really big in Orange Is the New Black, and she plays a crazy woman in that show, and she was so great in that show. So I love getting to see her do different things because I always know she can act. She was brilliant in that show, and everything I've seen her in since. So she's been good, and this is one of those.
She's
probably awesome. The first time, I'm not saying it's the first time she's done this kind of role. It's the first time I've seen her in this kind of role where it's just a normal woman but who's also fragile, who's not the punch you in the face, because she's played some strong roles. Like she was fragile as her character in Orange Is the New Black, but she was also had problems. This is like a normal woman who goes through some things, and seeing her evolution is probably my favorite of the group. Because she goes from being kind of this quiet, demure to standing up for herself. And, you know, I really liked her story the most. But they all are great. They all have different things.
It's all so good. It is a really, really good movie. And it's on Hulu, so you can just go watch it anytime. I really liked it.
I did too. And there's even a little, if you sit through the credits a little bit, there's even an after joke that's connected to something early in the movie that's really funny, that's worth sticking around. It kind of puts a punchline at the end of it.
Yeah.
So it's funny, it's heartfelt, it's sad,
it's all over.
Tearjerker, romantic, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it is.
It's a great flick. Check out The Scream at Earl's All You Can Eat on Hulu now.
Oh, here we go to the only controversial to HollywoodMatrimony.com movie.
Well, do you want to do that way? Because that was more new this week. Or do you want to talk about the other one?
No, let's talk about
those two. We are older.
Oh my goodness, let's go to this.
Let's see that one, because that one we were supposed to do the week before. We forgot about it.
Let's talk about this.
Hopefully, I remember this.
This is The Instigators with Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, not Ben.
And I did not write a review for this one.
Well,
just because I got really busy, and so I did not have time.
Well, that is just unacceptable. What you need to know is this movie is amazing, and you should watch it.
Did you think it was amazing?
I thought it was so fun. I guess.
Let me tell you what it's about.
Yeah, tell me what it's about.
All right. So basically, the premise of the movie is some robbers that, basically with the help of a therapist, they go on the run after something goes wrong, and the therapist is there to help them.
Yes.
That's essentially what it is. So it's like an action comedy kind of thing, which three teams: Matt Damon with Doug Liman, who directed The Bourne Identity. And so I was already interested because of that. Plus, I like Matt Damon and Casey Affleck and Hong Chow, who's in it. We're big Hong Chow fans.
We are. And she looks completely different again.
Yeah, if you don't know Hong Chow, she's in The Menu. She's in The Whale. She was amazing. Downsizing with Matt Damon.
Oh, so that's right. She was the wife, right? Or
yeah.
No.
She was the cleaning lady or whatever she was.
Yeah, the Downsize.
She was in she's in Asteroid City. She's in Kinds of Kindness, that we'll talk about next week.
Yeah.
So she's in
She's just amazing.
She is one of my new favorites. But
she is.
So what did you think of this movie?
I really thought it was great. It also has one of your favorite people in there, who shows up for a little bit. Your funny guy.
Oh, Paul Walter Hauser?
Yeah, he's there for a minute. I really liked this movie.
Who? I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay. And I feel like, at least to me, it's a little unexpected to see Matt Damon do just fun things. Because I always feel like he does such serious things sometimes. He gives us just really good dramatic performances. And the funny thing is, in this, it is a dramatic performance. He's dealing with a lot, dealing with not being as close to his son as he would like. you know, he takes his job because he's like, I need to pay my child support and all these things. Then you have Casey Affleck, who's just a mess. Like, his whole life is just a disaster zone. And you bring the two of them together, and Matt's kind of like the straight guy, trying to keep it together, but still doing bad things with the other. And it's just craziness ensues. Robbery gone wrong. We're on the run. Crazy people are after them. And then they keep going on the run, and they have no choice but to stick together to see if they can make it out. And then they uncover a whole other big thing, and it's just like, dude, I just need to pay my child support.
Right.
Through the whole thing, I just need this money to pay my child support. Like, he doesn't care about anything else, and it is hilarious and sad and dramatic at the same time. And
it's an action comedy.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't overly memorable as far as I'm concerned, but it's one of those movies that, like I said, it's kind of a generic action comedy. We've seen these movies a billion times, but Matt Damon's good in it. Casey Affleck is good in it. You know, Hong Chow. Like I said, it's got a great cast. It's an interesting story. It is an interesting twist with having a therapist there, who's both a hostage and trying to help them. And all the craziness that ensues. So it's one of those that's not a lot to say about it. I mean, it's worth checking out. It's another one that was on.
Oh, she was this lady too.
It was on Apple TV Plus.
It's on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
Yes. This one. Did you ever watch? You watched Night Agent, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh, she was in this too. Oh, sorry, Hong Chow is the best.
Right. But it's a good flick. I enjoyed it. If you like those kind of movies or like the cast, it's that kind of movie. The other thing I was going to tell you about Paul Walter Hauser, who has a quick scene in this movie. I love the guy. If you don't know him, he plays Stingray in Cobra Kai. Recently, Embarrassment and Inside Out 2. But he's been in a bunch of stuff. He has been cast to play Chris Farley in the biopic.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
That's going to be amazing. I think he'll do a great job.
He's also has a part in the new Fantastic Four movie somewhere. He's in the Naked Gun remake. So he's all over the place. So he was the kind of burst on the scene really as the bounty hunter or no, assassin for hire in the Tonya Harding movie, I, Tonya. That's where first we saw him. I think my favorite role of his is in Queen Pins. Is it Queen Pins about the coupons?
Yes.
Remember, he's the agent going around investigating, and he takes it way super serious. Nobody cares.
Nobody cared. But then finally they realized how many, like, millions of dollars it's gotten. It was amazing.
Did you ever sit down and watch what is that movie he did? Hold on. Okay. Or you can say something else while I'm trying to figure it out.
Something else. Anyways, I thought it was a great movie. You should check it out.
Richard Jewell. Did you ever watch that?
Richard Jewell.
It's the one that's based on the actual bombing at a state fair or something.
I didn't watch it. I think you told me about it.
He's the star of it.
Oh, okay.
He's so good. Anyway.
Oh, other people love Hong Chow. Thank you. We love her too. The thing I like about her is she looks different in every single part. Like, she's never the same.
Yeah, The Menu, FYI, is one of my favorite movies that year. I love that movie.
Yeah. So, anyways, check her out.
Yes, Instigators is now on Apple TV Plus. I know we didn't say a lot about it, but it's been out for a while now. There's not a lot to say. It's just it's a fun flick, man. Just go check it out and have a good time.
Alrighty. Next, tell me about this.
All right, let's get it now.
I know you have a lot to say about this.
Let's get into some controversy.
Lord, let's talk about
you may be surprised by what I have to say.
Oh no.
So first and foremost, I want to talk about what is The Crow. Right, it's very important going into this because The Crow is, and I'm honored and blessed to say James O'Barr, who created The Crow, is somebody I know, became friends with. He's a great guy. We spent a lot of time hanging out with him. You know, you even were in a band with his ex-girlfriend for a long time. So I do have direct connection with The Crow from that standpoint. Not when he made the book; it was years after. I am a huge fan of his original book. I used to read all the other comic series that came out. I love, like most people, the Brandon Lee Crow movie. I think it is I know you're going to probably be like, what? I think it is a masterpiece of filmmaking from a standpoint of adapting the graphic novel and the visual stylings because it was different at the time. You know, yes, I know it's not a masterpiece in typical film. That's not what I mean. But I do love that movie. I've seen it a billion times. Even the sequels that came out, which are mostly trash. I remember really liking the second movie when it came out, but I think it's because they were so hard trying to keep it like the original that it felt like, oh, I'm getting more of the same. And then the two straight to video ones were trash. Upon revisiting them,
all of these.
Yeah, upon revisiting them, I realized I don't like any of the other three. Like I had a memory in the back of my mind that there were things about them I liked. I remember The Crow, Wicked Prayer being my least favorite, which is the David Boreanaz one. He's the only good thing about that movie.
My problem with it though is watching it and knowing that exactly he took that movie right at the end when Angel ended. He is absolutely Angel.
Yeah, he played Angel in
evil vampire.
He played Angelus in that movie.
Angelus, that's all he was.
You're proud of me knowing that?
Yes, I'm proud of you, baby.
Thank you. I know the issues with Crow Salvation because it was one that they weren't going to release. It got made, it got shelved, and it got released. I remember it finally coming out and going, "This movie's not horrible," but then revisiting it, yeah, it is. And I love the Crow TV series. They got one season. But it also probably has a lot to do with the fact that Martin Dacascos is playing Eric Draven.
Yeah, and you love
now, the controversy in this movie's existence is people too busy comparing it as a remake of the Brandon Lee movie. And it is not that at all. You can say that. You can say, well, it is a remake of that movie, but it's not. It's a reimagining of the source material, which is two different things. You can't, if you remake a movie, you're taking that movie and you're remaking that storyline. It's like when they remade Psycho with Vince Vaughn, they shot that movie, almost tried to make it scene to scene of a remake. It's not a good movie, but they tried to remake the movie Psycho, not the book.
Yeah.
This is a reimagining of the source material. And I'll tell you this, the biggest mistake this movie made was saying that this was Eric and Shelley. Because
Again?
Huh?
Again?
Well, like I was saying, they were trying to take the original source material and reimagine that source material. So the story is not even the same in the book. The story is not about a couple in love necessarily that are murdered by a gang or whatever.
No.
It's two dysfunctional people that meet, fall in love. So we get a bigger storyline of their relationship.
Okay.
Most people hated that. I was here for it.
I can handle it.
They're like, one of them basically is a guy who he's got some emotional trauma. I believe they're in drug rehab.
Oh, okay.
And they meet, and she's got her own problems. They kind of connect, and their dysfunctions bring them together, right? Which we all know two addicts shouldn't be together, but
right, but that's okay.
Then the story arc beyond that is supernatural, not just a crow rising the aspect, but there's even a demon aspect. So it almost looked like they took an element of Wicked Prayer and infused. It's not the same story, but infuse that into what the catalyst of it. So this is not a case of the guys on Devil's Night that murdered them one Halloween, and now he's back for vengeance for them. Yes, he is back to avenge the person he loves.
Right.
But that's the story in every Crow story.
That's everything. Yeah.
That's the Crow story, period. That is those three things. Eric, Shelley, and he rose from the dead via the Crow thing. With the Crow's barely part of it. The Crow is kind of a symbolism around them, but it's not like a front and center thing with the Crow guiding them as much. It is there. It's there, but that's not all of it, right? So what they did is they took the source material, they modernized it, did a different idea of the story, which they should have changed it from Eric and Shelley and made it like Ted and Wilma. And then just said this is the Crow next generation or the Crow just rising or something.
A story, a Crow story.
Yeah, do like they did the sequels and make this a new Crow story. That I think would have been the first step away from people throwing temper tantrums about this movie. Because one, people love the old movie and love James O'Barr's book. Two, there's an emotional attachment because of Brandon Lee's death. I feel all of those things. I remember being insanely distraught when Brandon Lee died. I still have newspaper clippings from it. Like it really got me back then. On obviously the martial arts side, the Crow side, all of that stuff, So going into this movie, I went into it knowing that it had nothing to do with the Brandon Lee movie and nothing to do with the exact story James O'Barr told. it even says in it, based on The Crow by James O'Barr. It doesn't say,
right,
done or based on Brandon Lee's film.
right.
So you have to still think about that first. Okay. That's a lot to have to think about before you watch a movie. But it's important to know your subject matter. Yes, ma'am.
What if you know nothing about The Crow and you just decide,
if you just watch this movie,
in this movie, I'm going to go watch it.
It won't matter. If you just go into it because the story is explained. Now, there's a character called the Skullhead Cowboy in the original comic series. Before I always say graphic novel, but it was a comic series first that was collected. That is also omitted from the Brandon Lee movie. I believe they shot it with Michael Berryman, but they thought, hey, his whole purpose was to explain to the reader what's actually going on.
Gotcha.
In the movie, people should be smart enough. We don't need that. So they deleted him. This movie brings a variation of him back to it. It's not the Skullhead Cowboy, but kind of a guide.
Is he narrating us, or
no? He's just there. He's kind of his spirit guide. When he dies, gotcha. He's there to welcome him and say, "Here's what you're going to do." From the standpoint of what this movie is, I like this movie. It's not without its flaws.
I'm shocked.
He's great in this movie. I thought the relationship was great. It does go a little too longer than it needed to for the buildup we're given. I didn't like necessarily the villain and what they were doing with the digging a little deep into the hell and supernatural element of that. I think with the Crow stuff, you already get the supernatural in. I don't need that other stuff. And it was kind of like, even though it was played well by, what's his name? I always forget. Did I not put him in here? It doesn't matter. It felt like it was trying to find a reason for things that didn't need to be there. Danny Houston.
Oh, I love Danny.
I love him. He's great in the movie. He plays kind of a devil of sorts.
And he can do good evil eyebrows.
Yeah, and that's why he's good at it. But it was one of the characters I was annoyed by. Like, why is this here? Yeah. It takes about 40 minutes before we get any action in this movie. Jeez. And that's one of my problems is it takes forever to get to the Crow aspect of the movie, of the murder and all the stuff that happens. And then we spent a long time, whereas Brandon Lee's version of the story, and I think this is another complaint, he rises and almost immediately accepts what he is and goes after them. It's very streamlined. Let's get this done. This one, he spends a lot of time like not knowing what's going on and confused and getting shot and beat up and punched and whatever before he starts realizing, okay, here's what's going on by this guy. There's some, because he did their own story, there are some nuances that are like, okay, this isn't really the vibe of what the Crow is. And there's an ending thing that kind of changes the Crow mythology that I didn't like as well. But leading up to the final act, and I'm not talking about the action sequences, the where it ends, I'm not a big fan of the ending. I'm not a big fan of the villain in the middle, but their relationship, the action they did, it being a Crow movie by itself, I enjoyed it. If I was saying it based on the source material, it was horrible. But seeing it from an outside of being its own thing, I actually very much enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Again, it's too long. It needed to be trimmed down big time. The action stuff, and even though I'm not a fan of the CGI blood splatters and stuff like that, that's what we do now because of all the drama and with gunplay and stuff. There's the opera house sequence at the end is hyper violent. They lean all the way into the violence of this movie. You get to see some healing stuff you didn't get to see from some of the other Crow movies. There's a moment where he gets run over by a car that all I could think about was you. And you see his leg actually split open his bone. You see his bone pop back into place. And so there's some cool stuff in the movie. And he's fantastic in the movie.
Yeah.
Whatever her name is, F.A. Twigs or NBC Twigs or FK Twigs. She's actually really good in the movie. I don't know nothing about her, but she's actually really good in the movie. So I like this movie. I didn't love it. I did like it more than I thought I might because of my fear of what they were doing. But knowing what they were doing, I will tell you, you don't get this variation of the Crow until the last act of the movie. So it's very much superhero buildup as opposed to early on where he puts on the makeup. The makeup thing's even different on why it's set up. So
yeah.
I'll be interested when you finally see it to see what you think of it. Being someone who's not a big Crow fan, you've never read the source material, so you're not even.
No, and I didn't really care for the movie. I'm sorry.
I thought you said you didn't care for James. You didn't care for the Brandon Lee movie?
It's okay.
This will be our final show together.
It's okay. I just don't see why you think it's so great.
It's such aesthetically a great movie, and it's such a great story, and it's just great action in it. It's like, come on, lady, come on.
The best thing about it was the little girl.
She is the most annoying part of that movie. Sarah, or whatever the hell her name is. That's part of that annoyed me about City of Angels. They bring in Mia Kushner, who I love, and she plays a grown-up version of that idiot that I didn't annoyed by me in the first one. I don't even think she's in the original book. I think she takes the place. I'll have to go back and look. It's been so long. But I think she kind of takes place. And for all you purists out there, if I'm not mistaken, Eric was not even in a band. I believe he was a mechanic in the book, too. And they changed that. But that's okay. Anyway.
Who knows?
You're wrong. I love the original movie, and I actually enjoyed this new one. Sadly, this movie flopped big time. We'll probably not get another one anytime soon. The other thing I want to say before we move on is I know there's a lot of people that were hostile towards this movie and anger friends of mine who are huge James O'Barr fans. And as am I. I also see the flip side of this is, no, it's not the Crow movie we wanted. You're kind of in an uphill battle to try to remake a movie that like that is so beloved by fans, and to have the star die making that movie. It's almost a zero chance anybody's going to accept it without doing something different. But I also look at the vibe of getting to see James O'Barr's work still out there, still getting the chance to be on the screen and not get lost on just another 4K release. Like the 4K release came out, it looks fantastic. I loved it. But what generation, who in this generation is going to just go buy a new old movie on 4K without something really piqued us? I hope this movie is one that the people that don't know it, like yourself maybe, that knew nothing about The Crow or whatever, you watch the movie and you're like, isn't there another Crow movie? And then it makes them want to go watch the original. Yeah. Hopefully they won't watch the other ones, but because then they won't watch the original. But if you want to go buy all the Crow movies, this is the best sequel Crow movie made. So for all you people out there complaining about this one, if you come back and tell me you're liking the other ones, we're no longer friends.
Wow.
Just saying.
They were not very good.
Anyway, The Crow, it's still in theaters. It's not doing great, but it probably is going to end up on digital sooner than later. It also had an uphill battle to climb fighting against Deadpool and Inside Out 2 and all the other behemoths that have been hitting the box office right now. So anyway, if anybody wants to argue and discuss this with me, feel free to contact me. I'll be glad to discuss you and tell you why I'm right and you're wrong, and that we can still be friends about it because we're adults.
Exactly. All right, now we're going to move on to a movie that was a controversy only for us and our website. This is the new movie starring Tyrese Gibson, 1992.
And for those that don't know about the controversy, I think we talked about it on the show already.
Yeah.
We're going to set it up for you a little bit again.
Okay.
So the premise of this movie is it's set at the backdrop of obviously 1992 during the Los Angeles riots, which is, the Rodney King trial. And when the verdict came out, they were found not guilty and the city just erupted into violence. Totally understanding the situation of why it happened. Not necessarily agree with what everybody did, destroying their own cities, but I get the anger and everything of the time. We lived through that time. So I remember being all over the news and having friends of color and stuff affected by it, and I'm totally upset. So when I posted the first story about this movie, it was literally just like the poster and the trailer. That's it. Clearly a person that followed our page did not read the synopsis, because the movie is not about the riots whatsoever. It's about a father and son who's trying to rebuild their relationship. It's about a group of people that decide to rob some factory, and he happens to work at the factory, all under the guise of the riots that are happening, using that as their cover. So hopefully the police won't find them or catch them in the act. That's the story. It's a very general 90s action flick.
Heist movie?
Yeah, heist action flick that probably would have come out in the 90s. That's what this movie made me feel like. The person commented on this the post I made about it, about how how would they say it? They're like, I can guess which way this is going to lean. Like they immediately were saying, this is going to be a black thing. They're immediately going to talk about how they're the victims. That was the vibe he said and how I took what he said. And so I commented on it. Well, your response is everything I need to know about you. But if you read the synopsis, it's not about that at all. It's about this. Instead of the discussion from that, immediately went to the F you, blah, blah, blah. it's society's the problem, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't, it was an entire exchange back and forth. I'm like, I don't know why you're cussing. I'm not even mad. And if that's what you were talking about, you should have said that. And then it was just F you, unfollow. I'm like, bye.
Thank goodness.
The funny part is we know this person. So it wasn't like a stranger behind the keyboard. I know where they live. Whatever.
I know where you live.
Yeah, we know where they live. So it's not like that we're threatening anybody, but you want to start fights.
It's awkward.
Anyway, it's just stupid.
But anyways, I'm glad they're gone because based on other posts and comments on previous movies, they're racist anyway, so you're a loser.
But they're Obama supporters. So weird.
They're racist.
Anyway, we had the luxury of getting to watch this film while we were on our trip.
Yes.
And it has a great cast with Tyrese Gibson, Scott Eastwood, Oleg Tarov, and it's Ray Liotta's final film.
Are we sure? Because he keeps popping up everywhere.
Yes, from what I read, this is the final movie he made.
All right. And he looks good in this movie.
He does. I actually thought this is the best I've seen him look in a long time.
Yeah, he looks
like he looked slimmed down. He kind of looked kind of buffish.
Yeah.
I
know.
So anyway, what'd you think? Did you even pay attention to it? We were on vacation.
I did. No, I did, and I really liked it, and I thought it was interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of things. So obviously the Rodney King thing's happening, so the riots are starting. So you're dealing with this man who's has a strained relationship with his son, so that's happening. And I think it's one of those things where, first of all, he is trying to be a good father. We find out through the movie he had been in jail. Some things happen. He's out.
And clearly he's someone who has clout in the neighborhood.
Yeah, he must have been big time.
Big time.
Like slapping the bass, big time. But now he's really trying to live a decent life because I think he wants to have a good relationship with his son. And there's multiple levels here. It's that thing where now he's trying to be a decent father. I think he's trying to be a decent role model. And I think as a black man, knowing that he was just in prison and things happen and these riots and black man was beaten, but the white officers were innocent and all this, I think he's really trying to teach his son, like, look, I understand what can happen as a young black man in the world, and the cops are here, because there's a scene where he's like, just shut up and don't say anything. It's one of those things. And kids nowadays, I'm going to even say kids nowadays, don't understand sometimes the trauma that other people or older people have suffered. And so now it's a traumatic response where you automatically don't say anything. You make sure your hands are out. You have all the whole bit, right?
Well, we've had that discussion too about your different experience of life than mine, obviously being Correct. A white person, is where you've been given the description of how do you act when you're pulled over by a police officer.
You turn off the car, you put your hands on the steering wheel, and you're like, yes, no, I'm going to reach into my purse now. It's right here.
My description of what to be doing when I get pulled over is do what they tell you, don't act like an asshole.
But
there was never a thought of you're in danger when you get pulled over by a police officer because I'm a white person.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm not in danger, but we all know there's now a stigma because of real life situations that have happened
like this,
that people of color have had, whether it was their own fault or not their fault, both are true. But it's still a thing that people of color are having to tell their children or the people that leave their house, don't make sudden moves, do what you're told. It's sad that it harkens back to the slave mentality of when they tell their kids they would tell their children how to act around the white man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's really what it's become again. It's sad to me. And there's nothing I can do to fix that, because I can also be horribly bad by being too supportive and now making it look like I'm trying to make up for something I did. It's that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm the victim. I'm just.
Yeah, no, but I was saying, so in the movie, you see all of these layers to him. He has his background with whatever gang violence thing he went to jail, he's trying to be good, he's trying to be a good father, trying to be a good role model, trying to teach his son how to deal with the cops. And then this situation comes up where his son's like, well, see, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter if you're talking to them or you're following orders, because they're still going to beat you. So then the influence of his friends in the neighborhood is like, let's go and do the riots too, and this poor man is just trying to find his son and keep his son safe. And with all of these other factors happening, and he takes him to somewhere you think is going to be safe, and then they're not.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like everything he tries to do is just going wrong in this day.
I think the riot element also adds an important level of who he is, because when he's walking trying to find his son, he's walking through the streets. Violence is happening around him, and he's not even fazed that there's people with guns and hitting and beating things and breaking things. He's just walking down the street like it's a sunny Friday.
Yeah.
And that says something, because a normal person would be like hiding and running away, and he's just walking along, you know, looking for his kid, you know, whatever. And then you got this other group of people that are doing their heist. So the majority of the movie takes place in this factory where they're trying to heist and they're trying to fight back and survive and whatever. Because the movie very much reminded me of the movie Trespass with Ice-T and Ice Cube and William Sadler and Bill Paxton, which is, have you seen Trespass?
I don't think I have.
Where basically, if you don't know the movie Trespass, it's a fantastic movie. But Bill Paxton and William Sadler go to this like dilapidated building in the wrong side of town because they've heard there's some kind of like treasure / money hidden there.
That's always a bad
thing. While they're there, they get caught up with this one guy by mistake, and they end up holding somebody hostage because the guy tried to kill him. But now you have this whole gang, which is Ice Cube and Ice-T, and all these people are trying to get their brother back. And so then it becomes a fight of misunderstanding, of wrong place, wrong time, all over something else. This movie very much reminded me of that, very much.
Anyway,
but I would like to say, I thought everybody was good in the movie. Scott Eastwood is looking more and more like his dad every day.
Oh my gosh, let's just do a biopic and put him in it.
Yeah, but I really like Tyrese in this movie.
He's so good.
It's been a while since I got to see him in something like this. Back in Baby Boy, when he made that movie, something like that. We're so used to his loudmouth, comedic nature of the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah, but this is just a really good,
which is fine. I love it.
Role.
He's great in that role. But in this one, you don't get the smiles, you don't get the happiness and the witty banter. This is a hardened man who's been through things. He carries it well. He's good in the movie. I think you could tell that this movie meant something to him to be in it, the way his performance.
Yeah.
I think there's a resonation. And I also thought, I don't know if I think I told you about it, but I don't know if you saw the video that at the premiere movie. So this movie's been trying to get a big push. It was also produced by Death Row Pictures. So it's produced by Snoop Dogg. And so I think he's kind of trying to get into that world. But while he's at the premiere on the red carpet, Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez showed up.
Yes.
And he was in tears on the red carpet for them actually showing up. Because he was like, I don't ask anybody to come to these things or do any of these things. You know, he goes, and Vin Diesel said in a little clip, he's like, I'm not in this movie. I didn't come because we're sharing a movie together. He goes, he's family. Surprise!
No,
I come for family. And so he was actually crying because he came to the premiere to support him. So, and I'm pretty sure Vin Diesel left because Vin Diesel's shooting the new Riddick movie now.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure he left where he was shooting in some other place to come to the premiere. It's a good flick. It is a little by the numbers. It's not some hardcore action movie. It's like I said, it's very much like a 90s action heist flick. It's not one that I would assume they'd be breaking down the box office or setting new guides, but it's a good movie. I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Quite more than I thought I might. I was afraid it was gonna be too cliche, but I think again with the backdrop of that and everything else, I thought was really well done.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, I liked it. It was good. Sorry, I got distracted. Watch it. It's in theaters still, right?
Yeah, 1992 is in theaters now. It kind of fell under the radar again.
But go see it. It's really good.
It's still fighting the juggernaut of everything's fighting the juggernaut of Wolverine and Deadpool.
Still?
And, yeah, it's still the #1 movie again.
Goodness
it got knocked
gracious.
down by what was that came out a couple weeks ago that we surprisingly knocked it down? Oh man. We've had a couple of big bombs as of late, with Borderlands not doing really well in The Crow, which sucks because those are both Lionsgate films, so they've taken a pretty big hit. What was the movie that popped in? Oh, Alien Romulus had knocked Deadpool Wolverine down to #2. Excuse me, but it retook #1 again.
Yeah. Well.
So the top 3 movies right now are Deadpool, Wolverine, Alien Romulus, and It Ends With Us is still.
It's still up there.
It's already made $133 million.
That's all the ladies are going.
It's a massive.
They like being abused.
Surprisingly, the #4 movie was the Reagan movie that came out. The Reagan movie with Dennis Quaid came out under the radar too. It was #4 Twisters is still on the list.
But
Blink Twice.
But It Ends With Us is not good.
You haven't seen it, so you don't know.
No, but I have from a reliable source that the book is better.
Well, that's but
it's had some controversy.
So here's what sucks really bad. The another movie I'm going to tell you about, it's on here. You're going to be like, that came out. The Crow's not even in the top 10.
Wow.
After 2 weeks.
Wow.
Deadpool Wolverine #1, Alien Romulus #2. It Ends With Us was #3. Reagan was #4.
Okay.
Twisters was #5. It's holding on.
Good.
Blink Twice was #6. It didn't have a very strong open. A movie called The Forge, which I believe is some religious release. Despicable Me 4 was #8.
There.
Afraid, the AI movie about the AI at home that comes alive and kind of.
That came out already?
Yeah, I told you were going to say that.
Oh, I wanted to see that.
It was #9. And
the one where she's like, do you want to see what I look like?
It was #9. And the Coraline re-release was #10.
Oh, well, Coraline beat some of this?
It beat The Crow. And 1992 is not on here either.
Wow. That's too bad. You know what? It's a really good movie. I think you should watch it. It's just a good dramatic film about a father and son.
Now, I'm not sure how the release was for 1992, or if it's one that they did a more of a direct video drop, a theatrical drop. I don't know, because again, it's considered more of a, not a low budget, but a smaller film.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Oh well. All right. Over to you, baby. What's coming out?
What are we talking about?
Stuff.
There's not a lot coming out this week. Looks like Creepshow's getting a limited edition steelbook. Repo Man's getting a 4K release. Sweeney Todd's getting a 4K release.
Ooh, Mrs. Lovett's
A League of Their Own's getting a 4K release.
Is that No Crying in Baseball?
Yes.
Okay.
The original, not the new one.
Right.
Or the TV series, whatever it was. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey's getting the steelbook edition release.
You need to see it.
The Boys getting a 4K release. Amityville Horror, the 2005 movie's getting a 4K. Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions getting another release. That's kind of it. Nothing super great coming out this week.
All right. Well, coming out at the theater or on the line, we start off tomorrow. First of all, can you believe it's September? This year has flown by. Monday, September 2nd, on video demand and digital, a movie called And Mrs. This is interesting. It's a comedy where a woman living in London decides to marry her dead husband. Makes no sense, but it looks interesting, and it sounds like it could be a lot of fun. Coming out on Tuesday, September 3rd, on the video demand and digital, a movie called At Her Feet. It follows the heart-pounding journey of two college archaeology interns in Hawaii as they raced against time to save artifacts that are in the path of a volcanic eruption. Also on video demand and digital, a movie called Charlie Tango, Desperate for a Fresh Start. An air traffic controller finds herself stuck in a world of financial fraud. Don't know how that's going to work out. Coming out Thursday, September 5th, the new Netflix movie. It's a documentary, Apollo 13 Survival. This is 9 months after Neil Armstrong has landed on the moon. There's a crisis where 3 astronauts are stranded halfway between the moon, and they have to figure out a way to get back. Coming out on Peacock this week, there is a new miniseries, Fight Night. I think we're excited for this.
It's a miniseries?
It's a miniseries. Kevin Hart, Samuel Jackson, Taraji P. Henson, Don Cheadle, Terrence.
Damn!
Yeah, damn. Yeah. There's so many.
It looks really good.
It looks so good. So I hope you will watch it. Also, a new series coming to Netflix, The Perfect Couple. It's this lady who's about to marry into a wealthy family in Nantucket, but she finds out there is some crazy things going on in the family. This is the one where it stars Liev Schreiber and Nicole Kidman as the wealthy parents. Then she's marrying into this family. There's a bunch of great people in the cast, and it's interesting because the trailer, she's like, so why do I have to sign an NDA before we get married? So that tells you everything. Because one of the first things in the trailer is they see a dead body on the beach. We'll see what happens. That one looks like it's going to be a great series. Coming out at Friday on video demand and digital, a movie called Don't Turn Out the Lights. Ooh. Here we go. A group of high school friends take a trip in an RV to a music festival, and I'm just telling you, we don't go to the woods, we don't go to music festivals because we know people are going to start dying, and they got to see if
half
they
of
can
my
survive.
life that I was growing up with got taken away when I married this one.
Yep. And then the movie coming out in theaters this Friday. I think this is the only new thing coming out this weekend at the theater. So we'll see how it does. Beetlejuice is back, friends, and the sequel, Beetlejuice.
So we're done.
No. Starring this time Jenna Ortega, Winona Ryder still, Michael Keaton's back. He's I'm back.
Catherine O'Hara's back.
Catherine O'Hara's back.
I will say that Jeffrey Jones is not back.
He's no longer with us, is he?
Jeffrey Jones is very much with us, but he was also arrested for child pornography.
Oh goodness.
Years ago.
Oh goodness. Anyway, so that's the big thing coming out in the theater. I didn't see anything else.
I think they killed him off in the movie.
I don't think anything else is coming out this week.
I believe that's what it was.
Coming out to Netflix on Friday, Rebel Ridge, a former Marine, grapples with corruption in a small town. He's trying to get his cousin out of jail, but violence quickly ensues. And I think that's really it for this weekend. It's going to be a slow, lazy week with the holiday. Tell us about the contest, Pooh.
So we actually got some new stuff this time around. We got copies of Watchmen Chapter 1, the new animated DC film that's taken on the Watchmen book. We got some digital copies of Twisters, which is still in theaters, but you can watch it at home. We also got some digital copies of The Fantastic Inside Out 2, as well as some 4K copies of If, which you still haven't seen.
I have not.
If is actually a fun little movie.
I'll check it out.
I think you're going to really like it if you actually sit down and watch it.
Okay, I'll watch it.
We got some copies of The Watchers that we talked about today, as well as Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, the latest spin-off chapter in the Mad Max world of universe.
All right. Well, that is it for us, friends. We will see you next week. Thank you so much for watching.